All right, so now that our blank scene has opened, let's talk about how you actually get geometry into Lumion. So what you see here on the right side of the screen, I've got SketchUp open, and then I have Lumion on the left. This is optional, you don't need to follow along. I just want to point something out. So there's two distinct methods to get geometry into Lumion. One is called the direct import method, which uses this guy right here. See how it says imported models? If I hit place, it's going to ask me to import a new model, right? So we're going to do it this way, but before I do that, I do want to show you the live sync method. So if you're unfamiliar with what that is anytime you make a change on your SketchUp model, it'll update instantly in Lumion. So I want to give you a quick little demo so you understand the pros and cons. If you don't have the plugin installed, go right up here to the extension warehouse and just search for Lumion. I uninstalled mine just so I can show you what it looks like. So I'm going to click this. And then I'm going to scroll down to install. I'm going to scroll through here. Okay. And I'm going to hit yes. Okay. Now it's been installed. You know you've done it correctly when you see this little toolbar right here. So check this out. If I hit the play button, it's going to build a link between the two softwares. So look at that. It dropped the model in, right? So I'm just going to fly up here and let's look at the front. Okay. All right. So that's our model, right? So check this out. If I move around in SketchUp, look at that. It's actually matching the camera. So now the cool part is if I actually model something, just make this square. Boom. There we go. So that's the benefit of the live sync. Okay. Why would you use this? Let's say you're designing or you're meeting with a client and you actually need to do geometry changes. The instant updates, super useful. So you see the direct changes right here. Generally speaking, since I'm usually on the rendering side of things these days, I like to do what's called like a geometry freeze, and then I import the model. So geometry freeze means the model's done, I finished modeling it, or I got it from the client, and I'm bringing it in. I can still update it, but it's more of like a manual update where I actually have to go in and hit reload. I prefer that way. You can definitely do both methods. Since this model is already like done and finished, I'm just going to do the direct import. And the other reason we're doing it this way is like just in case you don't have SketchUp. Let's say you're a Revit user or Rhino user. You can just import this SketchUp file in without even having SketchUp. So that's the benefit of it. So I'm just going to click this. I'm going to delete it by clicking this and delete. Okay, so that's gone. So now what I'm going to do the direct import, I'm going to go right down here, imported models, place, and import new model. And so as a bonus of this class, of course, you are going to get this model for free. So make sure you download that as a resource. So I'm just going to find it on my hard drive. And since we have two projects in this class, we're going to be using the one that's called Lumion 2024_exterior. Okay. Don't use the interior yet. And I'm going to hit open. Okay. It's going to ask me if this model name is okay. I'm totally fine with this. And I'm going to just rename this because I did the live sync before. It's technically like imported, so it needs a different name. So I'm going to hit OK. And now it's going to import it. Okay, great. So now it's actually on my cursor. So I'm just going to place it randomly. And I'm going to switch my cursor here. That way I lose all that. And I'm just going to stretch this over. Perfect. So I see everything. So the first thing I do is whenever I bring in a model, you see the position here? You see how it's like these random numbers? That's because it was on my cursor and I was just placing it. I like to just zero this out. That way if I'm ever adding more SketchUp models on top of this, they all have the same common data point. And what I like to do is I like to zoom in right around here and just make sure that there's nothing popping through. Sometimes in Lumion, when you have 3D grass, it actually pops through here and it looks really, really bad. So what I suggest is right under our Y, I'm just going to do 0.05. And this is generally good enough to get past the height of the grass, but just to be super cautious, let's just make it 9. Good. Okay. And the reason I'm doing this is just so the 3D grass doesn't pop through. All right, great. So another thing I'll point out when it comes to importing, not only can you import SketchUp files, but you can import FBX, OBJ. You have actually a huge array of models that you can import. And that's what's so nice about Lumion. It's kind of like a container for all these different assets to live in here. So super useful if you find something online and you want to import it, just go over here to place and then import it. All right, cool. So now that everything's imported, in the next video, let's talk about how we're going to materialize this and how materials work in Lumion.